Hi, Dr. Caleb here. Perhaps the single most common symptom of hearing loss, and one of the most common questions I get is, why am I having so much difficulty hearing others or following conversations every time I get into background noise? Well, in order to answer this question, first, we have to take a step back. First, we have to understand hearing and how our brain filters out background noise and why it is that this requires no effort when we're younger and when we have perfectly normal hearing. But before I go too deep, let me start with the great news that we can help your ability to hear in background noise, guaranteed. You know, this wasn't always the case in hearing healthcare with those junky, clunky, traditional hearing aids. But thankfully, modern technology can have you hearing your best everywhere you go. All right, let's dive in deep and talk about the normal hearing system, and then we can take that information and better understand the disordered system. You see, hearing in background noise is actually one of the most difficult tasks that the brain is asked to accomplish. There's a lot that goes into breaking down different signals from different places, separating what you want to hear from what you don't want to hear. For example, you want to hear the conversation that your son and daughter is having with you and not the other conversation at the other table. Or maybe you like to eavesdrop a little bit on the conversations that's happening at the next table. Either way, the point is you should be able to choose what you want to listen to in order for this process to work. And you have to have a fully operational ear-to-brain system that can separate and organize information by importance or by preference. And in order to do this, well, you need the entire auditory system to be working. See, when all the systems are a go, then complex processing is actually quite flawless and not something we ever even think about. But when the system begins to break down, which unfortunately occurs naturally as we age, well then simple tasks of hearing others and background noise all of a sudden feels like you're trying to climb Mount Everest without a Sherpa. Wow, I've been helping patients correct the problem for over 20 years. I think of my cousin and one of my good friends' father. We would all sit around the dining table, and once the conversation became too hard for him, well, he would just get up and go watch TV by himself in the basement. But in order to hear that TV in that room and hear the TV over all the voices, he would have to blast it because his brain simply couldn't handle all those competing sounds. You know, trying to listen to two things at once. I was younger when all this happened, but looking back, I see he had all the signs of hearing loss, that progressive degenerative disorder that was slowly getting worse as he got older. In his last few years, his early 60s, he was starting to regress even more, starting to opt for solitude over being with family and friends. He would prefer being in only groups of one or two other people, and it makes sense. And these were the times that he truly felt part of conversation. You know, we were always joking about how loud the TV was or how antisocial he was being, but really looking back, it wasn't funny. It's actually quite sad and depressing to think about all that he was going through and how much he missed. And we didn't know it. And I'm pretty confident that you or somebody you love is dealing with this also. They're dealing with the impact of hearing loss, just destroying that ability to communicate with others. Perhaps you know somebody who's even in their 50s who's dealing with this. Okay, so now let's get back to why this happens. It's actually quite simple. You know, there are a finite number of ear-to-brain nerves, and once they begin to die or become damaged, we can simply no longer hear as well in background noise, which explains why this is the number one complaint from patients. You see, this loss of nerves will compromise our ability to hear in background noise and can result in tinnitus, that annoying ringing or buzzing that's in your ears. Sometimes you only notice it in quiet, but you notice it's there. Even though you may seem to think, nah, my hearing's normal. It's just all the noise that's getting in the way. Truth is, you're at the beginning stages of hearing loss and at the best possible time to start treatment. Remember, use it or lose it. So allow me to tell you about our treatment plan and what it can do for you. I've spent many years of my life developing treatments that address the need to hear in background noise. Under clinical supervision, you'll receive the best available treatment technology that does a lot of the work for you. Our treatment technology provides the brain stimulation you need to hear what other people are saying, and it can filter out and remove that background noise. Oh, and by the way, if you think maybe it's just wait until my hearing loss gets worse? Maybe I'll wait until I can't bear it anymore? Please don't do that. The earlier you start treatment, the better the prognosis. It is so much easier to preserve and keep those neural connections. Some neural networks we can relearn and rebuild, but some, those brain to ear connections, we can't. And don't forget, treating hearing loss early is the single most important thing that you can do to prevent dementia. I hope this information is helpful and motivating for you to take the next step to living more confidently and staying fiercely independent. Thank you, and take care.